helpless, humiliated, breaking. Hurry up. Take it off. Her voice cracked in the dry Kansas heat. Thin as dust, yet sharp enough to stop a man mid-step. Amos Reed didn't move right away. For one hard second, he froze from where he stood, boots planted in brittle summer grass near the banks of the Arkansas River. It looked wrong. It looked real wrong. A young woman, barely more than a girl, hanging twisted against a cottonwood tree, one arm tied high above her head, one leg pulled up by a tight rope, dress torn by sun and wind, and a man, older, rough, stepping closer to her like he had every right to touch her. That man was Amos, and for one long second, anyone watching would have sworn he was about to do something unforgivable. What he did next looked cruel before it made sense. The girl gasped as the rope tightened with her movement, her body shifting in pain. Hurry. Please, take it off. Her eyes weren't pleading for mercy, yet they were urgent and focused, almost commanding. Amos narrowed his gaze, something old and careful settling behind his eyes. He didn't look at her face again. He followed her glance downward, to her boot, the one stretched high, pulled tight by the rope biting into her ankle. That's when he understood. Behind him, a low chuckle rolled across the open land. Silas Vane leaned against the tree like a man watching a show he'd already paid for. Clean shirt, calm smile, not a speck of guilt on him. He wasn't trying to kill her, not yet. He needed something she hadn't given him. You see, Amos, Silas said, voice easy as a Sunday afternoon. She's been difficult. The afternoon lay heavy across the field. Not a soul in sight for miles. No law, no witnesses, just dust, rope, and quiet cruelty. Amos stepped closer, slow, careful. Like a man approaching a rattlesnake he wasn't sure he could outrun. Lila's breath shook as he reached for her boot. The rope creaked, her whole body tensed. One wrong move, she'd fall hard, maybe break something, maybe worse. Silas didn't move. He looked like a man who thought he already owned the ending. Amos gripped the leather. Pulled. The boot came loose in his hand for a split second. Everything went still. Then Amos felt it. Something hidden, something not meant to be found, and suddenly, this wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was proof. Proof that could burn a man alive without a single bullet. But the real question was this. If Amos Reed had just uncovered the truth Silas Vane killed for, how many more men would have to die before that truth ever saw daylight? Amos didn't look at the paper right away. Out there, in that heat, a man who rushed didn't live long. He slipped the folded piece into his palm, quiet and steady, like it was just another scrap of leather. Then he lifted his eyes to Silas. No anger, no threat, just calm. That was the part that made Silas's smile thin out a little. 3 days earlier, none of this was supposed to happen. Lila Harrow had come into Dodge City with dust on her dress and grief sitting heavy on her shoulders. Folks said her sister, Mary, died in a wagon accident. Horse spooked, wheel snapped, wrong place at the wrong time. Things like that happened out here too often. But Lila didn't cry the way people expected. She watched, she listened, and she noticed what didn't fit. Silas didn't mourn like a husband. He moved fast, too fast. Had the body buried before the sun dropped, barely let anyone take a second look, kept his voice smooth, his hands clean, and his story short. Amos had seen men like that before, men who talked just enough to keep trouble away, but never enough to tell the truth. Lila showed up at Amos's place late that evening, didn't knock twice, just stood there, eyes tired but sharp. She handed him a small scrap of paper. Edges burned, like someone tried to get rid of it in a hurry. She left this, Lila said. That was all. Amos read it once. Not an accident. Checked the boot. That was all he needed. Out here, people didn't write things like that unless they knew they might not get another chance. Amos leaned back in his chair, staring out past the fence line, where the land just kept going and nobody asked questions. He could have stayed out of it. A man his age had every right to. But something about that line stuck with him. Not an accident. He'd heard that before, usually right before someone ended up buried with the truth. So he told Lila one thing. If we do this, we do it quiet, and you listen. He looked at her for a moment, then added, a man doesn't walk away when something's wrong right in front of him. She nodded. No hesitation. That should have worried him more than anything. The next day, they moved through Dodge City slow and careful, asked small questions, watched who looked away too fast. Piece by piece, it came together. Girls going missing, jobs that didn't exist, wagons leaving at night, coming back lighter. And always, somehow, Silas right in the middle of it. They found the warehouse. They weren't alone in there. Somewhere behind a thin wall, someone had been crying. Quiet. Like they knew no one was coming. They found the ledger page, too, and they found enough to know Mary had seen it all. And that's why she didn't live long enough to tell it. That night, Amos told Lila to stay put, told her he'd handle the rest in the morning, but grief doesn't listen. And neither does a woman who knows her sister was murdered. By the time Amos got back, Lila was gone. And out in the dark, a wagon was already rolling toward the river, the same river where she now hung between rope and sky. And Amos could feel it settling in his bones. This wasn't just about saving her anymore. It was about stopping something that had been running too long. But here's the thing that didn't sit right. If Mary knew enough to die for it, what exactly had she hidden inside that boot that made Silas this desperate? Amos didn't ask question. Not yet. Out there, with rope creaking and men watching, questions got people killed. He closed his hand around the paper from the boot, then moved, fast but not rushed. One step in, one shift of weight. Then it broke loose. Silas lunged first, thinking Amos would hesitate. He was wrong. Amos drove his shoulder forward, caught one of the men off balance, and sent him hard into the dirt. No shouting, no warning, just movement. Another man came in from the side. Amos turned, brought the heel of his hand up under the jaw, then grabbed the rope holding Lila's leg. Hold still, he muttered. She didn't argue, didn't scream either. That told him more than anything. She was tougher than she looked. The knife came out quick. One clean cut. The rope snapped loose. Lila dropped, but Amos caught part of her weight before she hit full force, still hard enough to knock the breath out of her. Can you stand? She nodded once, teeth clenched. That was enough. Behind them, Silas cursed, scrambling back to his feet. The calm was gone now. What was left underneath wasn't pretty. You should have walked away. Amos, he said. Amos didn't answer, didn't need to. He grabbed Lila's arm, pulled her toward the horses, and they moved. Not running wild, just steady and fast, like people who knew panic wasted time. A shot cracked behind them. Wide. Silas wasn't as steady as he thought. They rode hard for a stretch, then cut off the main trail. Heading toward Fortin Dodge, dust kicked up behind them, but no riders followed close. Not yet. After a while, when the noise of that place faded, Amos slowed the horse. Only then did he open his hand. The paper was still there, folded tight. He looked at it, really looked this time. Names. 3 of them. Young women, a train time, late evening, and a place farther south where no one would go looking. At the bottom, written in a different hand, rough but clear. Silas did this. Amos let out a slow breath. Lila leaned against the saddle, still catching hers. She knew, she said quietly. Amos nodded. Yeah, he said. She knew, and she paid for it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Just the prairie moving around them and the sound of leather creaking under weight. Then Amos folded the paper again, slower this time. This doesn't end out there, he said. It ends where that train stops. Lila looked at him, eyes steadier now. Not scared, not broken, just set. Then we don't miss that train. Amos gave a small nod. That was it. No big speech, no promises, just a direction. If you're still riding with me, hit subscribe. Take a sip of something warm and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I always like knowing who's riding along, 'cause what's waiting at that train station ain't just a handoff. It's where men decide what kind of line they're willing to cross. The sun was already dropping when they reached Fort Dodge. Not much shade, not much law either, but just enough of both to matter. Amos didn't waste time. He found a deputy he half-trusted, a man who still looked people in the eye, even if he didn't always like what he saw. The paper did the talking. Names, time, destination. The deputy read it once, then again, slower. His jaw tightened just a bit. "This goes past Dodge," he said. "If this is real, it's bigger than one man." "It's real," Amos replied. That was enough. No speeches, no promises, just a quiet understanding. By the time the three of them rode back toward Dodge City, the sky had turned that deep orange you only get out on open land, the kind of sky that makes things look peaceful when they aren't. Lila rode steady now. The pain was still there, but she carried it different. Not like something breaking her, more like something pushing her forward. "You sure you're ready for this?" Amos asked. She didn't look at him. "I was ready the moment she died." That settled it. They reached the Santa Fe rail yard just as lanterns were being lit. People moved like any other evening. Travelers, workers, a few drifters looking for luck that never stayed long, and right there, near the freight side, stood Silas, clean again, calm again, like nothing had happened that day. Three young women stood close to the wagon beside him. Quiet, too quiet, eyes low, the kind of silence Amos had seen before, not choice, fear. Silas spotted them almost right away. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Then it was gone, smile back in place. "Evening," he called out like they were all just neighbors passing time. Lila stepped forward before Amos could stop her. Her voice didn't shake. "You killed her." The words landed harder than a gunshot. A few heads turned. Not many. Not yet. Silas sighed like a man, tired of foolish talk. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Amos moved up beside her. Not in front. Beside. That mattered. The deputy stepped in next, holding the paper up just enough. "These girls going somewhere. Silas." Now people started watching. Silas glanced around, calculating. Always calculating. Then he laughed. "Soft, easy, just work," he said. Nothing more. But one of the girls looked up, just for a second. And that was all it took. Fear has a way of speaking louder than words. Silas saw it too. And in that moment, he made a choice. A bad one. He reached for Lila. Fast. A gun flashed in his hand. One wild shot cracked through the air. Hitting nothing but wood, the deputy reached for his own gun, but Amos was already on Silas before the man could aim again. The two men crashed into each other hard, right there on the wooden platform. No style. No clean lines, just weight, bone, and grit. Amos drove a hard fist into his ribs, then another. No hesitation this time. Silas fought like a cornered animal. Amos fought like a man who had already buried too many people. A fist landed. Someone stumbled. Boots scraped against wood. Then Silas snapped. "You think she mattered," he shouted. "Your sister should have kept her mouth shut. I warned her." The words hung in the air. No taking that back. The crowd shifted. Everything changed. And right then, with the truth finally out where everyone could hear it, the only question left was this. Would the law actually do something about it? Or would Amos have to finish it himself? Silas didn't get another word out. The deputy stepped in fast this time. Not slow like before. Not careful. Decided. Gun raised. Voice firm. "That's enough." Silas froze, just for a second, and that second cost him everything. Amos drove him down to the wooden platform, pinned him there. Not with anger, but with something heavier. It was over. Around them. The noise of the station changed. People weren't just watching anymore. They understood now. Those three young women weren't workers. They were cargo. And for once, the truth didn't stay buried. The deputy cuffed Silas right there, under lantern light. In front of everyone he thought he had fooled. No speeches. No drama. Just iron closing around a man who ran out of lies. The train still came that night, but not one of those girls left under Silas Vane's hand. Weeks later, Dodge City looked the same on the outside. Dust still blew through the street. Men still played cards like tomorrow didn't matter. But something had shifted. Quiet. Small. Real. Lila stayed. She reopened the boarding house her sister once talked about. Not big, not fancy, but safe. And sometimes that's worth more than anything else out here. Amos helped where he could. Fixed a fence, repaired a door, sat on that porch a little longer than he used to. Didn't say much, but he didn't leave either. And if you ask me, a man like Amos doesn't stay unless something finally feels right. Now here's the part that sticks with me. Out here, it wasn't always the fastest gun that mattered. It was the man who didn't look away when something felt wrong. Mary saw it and paid the price. Lila saw it and chose to stand anyway. And Amos, well, he could have walked off and lived quiet, but he didn't. So let me ask you something. When something feels off in your world, do you step in, or do you tell yourself it's not your business? Because sometimes the line between right and wrong doesn't come with a badge. It comes with a choice. Now I'll say this, just between us. I've lived long enough to know stories like this don't really end. They just change hands. So if this story stayed with you, leave a like and subscribe. There are more roads like this ahead, and I'd rather not ride them alone. And if you've made it this far, tell me where you're listening from. I always like knowing who's still here at the end of a long trail. One more thing before you go. This story was gathered and retold from old accounts, with a few details shaped to bring out the lessons and the human side of it. The images you see were created to help you feel the story a little deeper. If it's not your kind of thing, that's all right. Get some rest. Take care of yourself. But if it meant something to you, even just a little, leave a comment and let me know, because there's always another story waiting, and sometimes the next one hits even closer to home.